And if you ask any player, man or woman, they want to be playing in front of big crowds with atmosphere, and showcasing what they can do. And I think the women's tournament at the moment and the women's series isn't at a place where it can be standalone. We're not going to attract the crowds that the men get, and therefore putting them together, it gives them a shop window to the fans that are already engaged with sevens, because they're already at the stadium for the men.
It hasn't worked this year, men's and women's. It just doesn't work. You know, I love sevens, but I'm not going to sit and watch 70 plus games of sevens over 2 or 3 days. It's too much. It's overkill, and it's a long days for players. And then on top of that, you've got all those games, but then the format meant that over 2 days, teams are jumping from group, missing out quarterfinals, and going straight through to semi-finals. So it just didn't tick any of the boxes, and 28 teams is way too much. I also put a massive pressure on the tournaments. So they had suddenly 30% more costs, and they had no extra revenue. It wasn't selling more tickets. It wasn't getting more commercial partners in there. And I think the women's game does need to be standalone.
Do we have to have, like Ben said, all of those teams on the World Series? There's a challenge with 12 teams, because you sometimes end up playing the same team from your own pool in the quarterfinal. We've always had that as the women's. Could potentially you go down to 2 lots of 8, and the top 8 play in the main stadium, whether that men's and women's. The second tier of 8 play outside the stadium, and their finals get put into the main tournament. So you get those pressure moments, but you earn the right to be in the top tier. Potentially changing the numbers would allow it to be combined, because I think if you're going to engage with the rugby community, having both the men and the women at the same tournaments allows people to experience it.
I totally get why World Rugby thought they wanted to combine them, but I think it's done a disservice to the women's game. I don't think it's helped, and I think they need to now start to unpair that, bring it back in for those maybe key moments at the start and the beginning and the end of the season. Dubai start, Hong Kong finish, for example, but then have standalone tournaments for the women's team.